All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning again to everybody. My name's Dan Bellingham, and I am in CDER's Office of Compliance, specifically ODSER, Office of Drug Security, Integrity, and Response. And I want to welcome everyone to the latest public meeting on the Drug Supply Chain Security Act, the gift that keeps on giving. This is the Enhanced Drug Distribution Security in 2023. Under the DSCSA. And with that, let's kick it off. And I'm going to now introduce Don Ashley, who is the director of our Office of Compliance in CDER. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Dan. And good morning, everyone. As you heard Dan say, I'm Donald Ashley, the director of the Office of Compliance at the FDA Center for Drug Evaluation and Research. And I'd like to welcome you all to FDA's public meeting on enhanced drug distribution security at the package level, and thank you for your participation today. As you all know, the security of the drug supply chain is essential to public health, and I'm very pleased to be here to discuss these important issues with you. Patient safety is at the core of FDA's public health mission. Ensuring reliable patient access to safe and effective medicines requires actively maintaining a closed and secure drug supply chain for the distribution and delivery of medicine. While it's true the US drug supply chain is among the safest in the world, complacency just isn't an option for us. Every link in that chain must be secure. From the moment a drug leaves the manufacturing facility all the way to its final delivery at the pharmacy or a healthcare practitioner's office before being dispensed to a patient. Full implementation of the Drug Supply Chain Security Act, or DSCSA for short, will create an even more secure pharmaceutical supply chain and help protect patients from receiving illegitimate products. With this enhanced system, patients can be confident that prescription medicines they depend on only come from authentic sources. And patients deserve this peace of mind. DSCSA aims to build an electronic, interoperable system by November 2023 to identify and trace prescription drugs as they are distributed within the United States. The requirements for this system are the cornerstone of DSCSA. This enhanced system, as it's often called, is the cumulative result of a set of DSCSA requirements strengthening FDA's ability to protect US consumers from exposure to drugs that may be counterfeit, diverted, stolen, intentionally adulterated, or otherwise harmful by improving our collective ability to detect and remove potentially dangerous drugs from the supply chain. Building the enhanced system requires close collaboration with multiple public and private stakeholders, and that's why we're here today. Achieving interoperability across the many different systems and processes that make up the US pharmaceutical supply chain will be challenging, no doubt, but I'm sure together we can do it. We're getting closer and closer to our goal of implementing the enhanced system by November 2023 with innovative solutions, problem solving, and overall progress among stakeholders. Implementing the enhanced system will improve our ability to prevent harmful drugs from entering the supply chain, detect harmful drugs if they do enter the supply chain, and respond rapidly whenever harmful drugs are found. Now, today's discussion will focus on the enhanced drug distribution security requirements of DSCSA related to the system attributes necessary to enable secure tracing of product at the package level. Now, we published a draft guidance for industry in June with the agency's proposed recommendations for those system attributes. And I'd like to sincerely thank those of you who've already provided many helpful comments and perspectives on that guidance. We'll consider those comments along with what we hear today as we finalize our recommendations. And today, we look forward to hearing from stakeholders on enhanced drug distribution security, system structure, enhanced product tracing, gathering of relevant product tracing information, enhanced verification, and of course, trading partner readiness. We sincerely appreciate your commitment to ensuring that safe, effective, and high-quality drugs are available for U.S. patients. And we want to work with you to build the path towards full implementation of the law in 2023. Your input is absolutely critical to DSCSA implementation, and we look forward to continued engagement and collaboration to protect public health. Thank you again for attending today's public meeting.
Great, thank you, Don. Appreciate that. We're just going to go over briefly some goals for the meeting today, and also some meeting logistics, which hopefully at least everyone who's on right now was able to figure out. So goals for today's meeting and objectives. We, of course, want to provide the opportunity for stakeholders to provide input on this massive implementation effort by both industry and FDA. Specifically, of course, the enhanced drug distribution security provisions of the DSCSA that go into effect on 2023. And that's what we're going to focus on, those requirements that will be going into effect then, not necessarily past requirements. So specific objectives of the meeting, we want to learn about how implementation is going for the supply chain, including, of course, challenges. And we want to identify how helpful the recent guidance that Don mentioned that came out in June, the enhanced drug distribution security at the package level, that specific guidance from June, and how that is helpful, and any clarity or questions you may have regarding that guidance. Next, please. So some meeting logistics here. This meeting's a little bit different since we have about 500 people. We've got the audience in listen-only mode. Speakers and moderators, of course, will be a little different. And today's format will only allow for the FDA panel after each session to ask questions. Again, logistically, with 500 people, things could get a little hairy on our end. So the chat will only be used. You can use the chat, but it can only be used for technical support. We've got our AV team online here to provide support if you should have any issues. So use your computer audio to listen, as I imagine you're doing already. No separate dial-in is necessary. And I know folks will have questions regarding the recording. This is being recorded, and a recording of the meeting and slides will be available on our webpage after the meeting. Next, please. So we want to remind everyone that selection to speak today, all of our speakers, of which we have roughly a dozen or so, should not be interpreted as FDA's position on any entity's compliance with the regulatory requirements or an endorsement of any particular technology, system, or approach. We're really here to learn from the supply chain, as we've done in past meetings. So we've got a good variety of speakers from across the entire supply chain. We hope that speakers could avoid presenting any promotional material related to their organization. We're really not here for that. Confirmed speakers will be presented during their allotted time on the agenda. Everyone will have 10 minutes each. And then we wanted to build in some time for others to have an opportunity to speak. We had some extra time after confirming all of our speakers. So we have a good chunk of time, 45 minutes, for additional speakers, an open mic session, if you will, our open comment session at 3 o'clock. And in order to sign up for that, please send an email to the ODSER, the CEDAR ODSER public meetings box. You're probably familiar with that for using that in the past. So if you're interested in speaking, it's they're 5-minute sessions, 5-minute slots. And to sign up for that, we would love to have all the requests in by 12:40, which I believe is the end of lunch. So we can set that up and let everyone in and prepare for on the back end. So we need those in. We need those in by 12:40. And if folks try to get in for that open session, but it's full, there's always the opportunity to provide comments to the docket. And we've got a slide on that with the deadline coming up a little bit. We'll do our best to accommodate everyone, but we really don't have much time for more than about 8 speakers. Next slide. And there it is. There is the information about the docket. It closes on January 18th. So I believe that's it's about 90 days since this was announced in the Federal Register. And there's the link to the Federal Register notice, which gives specific instructions on how to do it either electronically or written. Next slide. And here's our agenda, which hopefully you've had an opportunity to see. I believe it's on our website. But if not, it's here for everyone as well. We're going to kick it off with Abba doing a background and information on relevant sections of the law and the guidance. And then we're going to launch right in for really why we're here, to hear from you, the stakeholders, and we'll have different sessions. We've kind of grouped about 3, 4, maybe 5 in one session or 2 speakers all together. And then we'll have our FDA panel ask questions briefly for about 10 minutes or so after each session. If they should have any specific questions for those group of speakers. Next slide. And then we will we'll end up, we finish at 4, and we'll end up with closing remarks from Lee Verbois in our Office of Compliance. Next slide. And there it is. I will now turn it over to Abba, who will do a presentation. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I just wanted to adjust my camera to reduce the glare. Welcome, everyone, and thank you, Dan, for the introduction. As Dan mentioned, I'm going to be doing an overview before we get into the stakeholder presentations. We thought it would just be helpful to provide a little bit of background and high-level summary of the guidance and our DSCSA work up to this point. And folks who are manning the slides, AV team, I'm going to be on slide 9. Perfect, thank you. So as you can see here, this is just a little bit of, background about the enactment of the DSCSA. It was enacted to protect patients and improve the integrity of the drug supply chain. Supply chain security requirements were enacted in the DSCSA again back in November 2013. The law outlines the implementation of key requirements over a 10-year period to build an electronic interoperable system to identify and trace prescription drugs in U.S. distribution. The system will enhance not only FDA's, but also the supply chain's ability to help protect U.S. consumers from harmful drugs like counterfeit or stolen drugs, and improve detection and removal of these drugs from the supply chain. Next slide, please. So this slide again just summarizes the overarching goals of DSCSA. So first goal is to implement the interoperable electronic tracing of products at the package level by 2023. That will enable secure tracing of product at the package level, use product identifiers to verify product at the package level, and enable prompt response to suspect and illegitimate products when they're found. It's also to improve efficiency of recalls. The second goal is to establish national standards for licensure for wholesale distributors and third-party logistics providers. And today's public meeting is going to focus on the first goal that you see here. Next slide. So to further break down the key requirements of the DSCSA in Goal 1, you can think about it in terms of these 4 categories you see here: product tracing, verification, product identifier, and authorized trading partner. I'll discuss each requirement in a bit more detail. Next slide, please. So DSCSA requirements are applicable to entities that meet the definition of manufacturer, repackager, wholesale distributor, dispenser, or third-party logistics providers, 3PLs. We collectively refer to these entities as trading partners, but it is important to note that the product tracing requirements of the law, which we will be focusing on today, do not apply to 3PLs. I also want to note that the law does not treat an entity's role as fixed. Instead, the law requires a trading partner to determine what trading partner definition it meets in each transaction, which we're going to discuss a little bit more what we mean by that, and comply with the specific requirements for that trading partner for that particular transaction. Beginning in 2015, requirements related to ensuring trading partners listed here are appropriately licensed or registered and, when applicable, met new FDA reporting requirements went into effect, and such trading partners are considered authorized under the law. The exact requirements vary depending on an entity's trading partner status, as I noted, but taken together, these requirements all sought to further secure the supply chain by ensuring that trading partners transacting product with one another are again authorized. Next slide, please. The DSCSA defines a transaction as involving transfers of product where a change of ownership occurs, and also excludes a number of scenarios from the definition, which I encourage you to read. Another key definition is product, which is defined as a prescription drug in finished dosage form for administration to a patient without further manufacturing. Again, a number of exclusions here that you should familiarize yourself with. And product and transaction are cornerstone definitions of the DSCSA, which is why we highlight them here today for this public meeting. Next slide, please. Product tracing refers to respective requirements for each trading partner to provide or receive information related to transaction of a product, in addition to maintaining these records for at least 6 years. We reviewed the definition of product and transaction in the last slide, and when we refer to the product information or data, we mean the information or data related to the transaction information, or TI, the transaction history, or TH, and the transaction statement, or TS. So again, we often, just as shorthand, collectively refer to this information as product tracing information, but we're really talking about these 3 types of documentation and the data elements of each. I don't want to get into the details of each one. I think folks can read over what the elements of each of these 3 pieces of documentation is, but the TI essentially has information about the product and certain shipment information and business information. The TH is a statement in paper electronic form, including the transaction information for each prior transaction going back to the manufacturer of the product. And the TS, which is a statement that essentially confirms that a trading partner has met the itemized requirements that are listed in it. In a bit, we're going to discuss how the TI changes in 2023 and how the requirement to provide the TH goes away. Next slide, please. Okay. Suspect and illegitimate product are now defined in the FDA Act, and there are similar requirements for investigation and handling of these products to ensure illegitimate products are identified and not distributed. While the definitions for suspect and illegitimate product are very similar, the difference is the credible evidence that must exist for a product to determine it to be illegitimate. These definitions focus on products that are counterfeit, diverted, stolen, and subject to a fraudulent transaction, just to name a few examples. And there is an animation on here, or I don't know if I think we've skipped over it, but the steps to investigate and quarantine suspect and illegitimate products are similar, but reporting to FDA primarily applies to illegitimate product. If illegitimate product is found, a trading partner must notify FDA within 24 hours of that determination. FDA has developed the form FDA 3911 to help with this process. This information is available on our website. In addition, a trading partner must notify other trading partners that they have received the illegitimate product so that everyone investigates and removes that illegitimate product from the distribution. Okay, and we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is the fourth of those four categories that I had highlighted in a previous slide. But here, the last one was product identifier, or we often refer to it as serialization. So manufacturers and repackagers in 2018 had to start encoding product identifiers on prescription drug packages. And that required them to determine the smallest individual saleable unit, which is how a package is defined. And with the addition of the product identifier to labeling, verification requirements also have started to change and in order to really utilize that product identifier. And here we list out what the elements of the product identifier are. There's the NDC, serial number, lot number, and expiration date. And then also it needs to have the information in human and machine readable formats. So 2D data matrix for packages, and then for homogeneous cases, it can be a linear or 2D data matrix. And these are just examples here. Next slide, please. In order to better understand the 2023 requirements for enhanced drug distribution security, it is helpful to look at the combined statutory and policy implementation work that has already taken place. The DSCSA was enacted in 2013 and outlines requirements that are phased over a period of 10 years, ultimately culminating in what is often referred to as the enhanced system. The first requirements to be implemented were authorized trading partner, product tracing and verification in 2015. And then the next phase of requirements were in it's that second trapezoid from the left, product identifier and verification, package level verification. And the upcoming phase of requirements are those last two trapezoids there, enhanced drug distribution security requirements, and then 2023 and beyond is the enhanced system. We'll discuss each of these sets of requirements in more depth, but to get a complete detailed understanding of these requirements, please see the law and our regulatory issuances, which we're going to provide links for at the during the meeting today and at the end of the public meeting as well. Next slide, please. So to go back a little bit, I just gave you an overview of the timeline, but to dig into a bit more detail. Beginning in 2015, requirements related to ensuring trading partners are appropriately licensed or registered and, when applicable, met new FDA reporting requirements went into effect. The exact requirements vary depending on an entity's trading partner status, but taken together, these requirements all sought to further the security of the supply chain by ensuring that trading partners transacting product with one another are again authorized. This is something I reviewed a little bit ago. We've discussed product tracing a bit already, but this visual captures when lot-level product tracing requirements were implemented in 2015. In addition to exchanging TI, TH, and TS in either paper or electronic format, record storage and information request requirements all went into effect. Also in 2015, verification requirements became effective. The requirements are listed in more detail on the slide, but in general, the verification requirements outline robust investigatory steps trading partners need to take when they encounter suspect or illegitimate product. And I want to note that the requirements listed here are all currently in effect. Next slide, please. The next phase of implementation required manufacturers and repackagers to add product identifiers, which include unique serial numbers. We're going to discuss that more a bit later on the smallest saleable units of product packages. Additionally, the DSCSA required over phase years that trading partners begin to check product identifiers as part of the investigatory verification steps for suspect and illegitimate product, and also prior to transacting saleable returns. Much like the other requirements we've discussed, the exact requirements vary by trading partner. However, I will pause to call attention to the compliance policies issued in October 2020 that provide additional time for wholesale distributors to meet saleable return requirements and dispensers to meet verification requirements for suspect and illegitimate products. This additional time will allow trading partners to focus on developing systems and processes for 2023 enhanced requirements, including those related to verification. It also aligns with statutory requirements for all trading partners effective in November 2023 for secure, interoperable electronic tracing of products at the package level. And again, I'll note that the requirements here are in effect right now. Next slide, please. Thank you. So that brings us to the upcoming phase of requirements. In 2023, enhanced drug distribution requirements go into effect. The enhanced drug distribution requirements outline all electronic transaction data exchange with enhanced product tracing and verification, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. In 2023 and beyond, one of the major goals of the DSCSA will be in place to achieve enhanced drug distribution security across the pharmaceutical supply chain that helps keep patients safe. Next slide, please. Okay, this is, we've started including this in our presentation decks, and we recognize it is a wordy slide, and hopefully the wordiest slide you will see today. I'm not going to go over it in detail, but when we talk about enhanced drug distribution security requirements that go into effect in November 27, 2023, we're referring to this section here, 582G1 of the FDA Act. So please refer back to this section of the FDA Act for specifics of each enhanced requirement. Next slide, please. No. For the purpose of this presentation and the related guidance, enhanced system refers to the interoperable electronic package level product tracing systems and processes required by 582G of the FDA Act. And system attributes are properties or capabilities of the enhanced system that promote drug distribution security. We'll talk through these attributes in more detail, but they are listed here. So I'll give you a minute to review. Okay, next slide, please. Although the terms aggregation and inference are not defined in the DSCSA, they are used in describing how enhanced system requirements could be met. And FDA considers these terms to mean the following. So aggregation refers to the process of building a relationship between unique identifiers assigned to packaging containers. For example, a parent-child relationship would exist between the product identifiers for a package or group of packages, the child or children, that are contained in a homogeneous case, the parent. Inference means the practice of examining or using information for a higher level of packaging to infer information about the lower levels of packaging and its contents. For example, inferring information about individual packages from information about a sealed homogeneous case. As such, the effective use of aggregation inference in the enhanced system will depend on the quality of aggregated data, documentation, and shipping packing integrity, and the ability of the system to effectively use aggregated data to meet FDA Act requirements. FDA recognizes that many trading partners currently aggregate data for logistical management of product they sell. We are also aware that some trading partners use aggregated data for other purposes, such as to comply with verification requirements or to share data with trading partners at their discretion. Because it appears to be an essential process in trading partner daily operations of supply chain and data management, whether manual or automated, FDA supports the use of data aggregation. A selling trading partner and its purchasing trading partner should decide how they will share data files in a secure, efficient manner that allows the purchasing trading partners to use the data file for determining the information that is associated with each package of product. Although the FDA Act requires product identifiers to be added to packages in homogeneous cases of product, a trading partner may voluntarily encode a product identifier on packages of product that do not meet the definition of product in Section 581.13 of the FDA Act, or on non-homogeneous cases, as long as the addition does not interfere with other federal requirements. FDA recognizes that inference is also currently a common business practice and enables members of the supply chain to handle data, processes, and products during shipping and receiving steps. Although we note that members of the supply chain have indicated that future automated solutions may enable expedient package scanning for large volumes of product, thus making the practice of inference unnecessary. The trading partner should only use inference when it receives pallets or homogeneous cases with aggregated data if the integrity of the unit is intact. In other words, the tamper-evident tape or wrap or other security seal has not been broken. Receiving a pallet or homogeneous case with broken tape or wrap that was not unsealed by the purchasing trading partner may render the product suspect. If the receiving trading partner determines that the product is suspect, it should not use inference for the aggregated data. If a federal agency breaks a security feature to allow for the examination or testing of the product should not be treated as suspect or illegitimate absent other indications the product may be. If there are other reasons to believe that the product package, homogeneous case, or shipping unit is suspect, trading partners should not infer that aggregated data reflects the physical shipment of product and must comply with the applicable requirements regarding suspect product. Next slide, please. FDA recognizes that the development of the enhanced system across the supply chain will be complex, but views the elements we're talking about today as important parts of a robust system structure. Although each trading partner should have its own individual validated system and processes for managing its product and data, FDA recommends that the enhanced system enable the interoperable integration of such individual systems to the degree necessary to allow appropriate access, efficient information sharing, and data security. The enhanced system should allow FDA and other federal and state officials to communicate with trading partners' individual systems and receive relevant information upon request. The data architecture of the enhanced system refers to the type of data collected and the system validation policies and standards that govern how data is used, stored, managed, and integrated within and between organizations and individual systems. The DSCSA defines the type of product tracing data that must be provided, received, and stored. And the enhanced system must include the ability to continue the exchange of this data and promptly facilitate the gathering of information necessary to produce the transaction information for each transaction going back to the manufacturer. There are several possible data architecture models for how the data can be used, stored, managed, and integrated for the enhanced system. Such models that have been discussed include centralized, distributed, or a mixture of centralized and distributed or semi-distributed. For the purpose of our talk today and in the guidance, a centralized data architecture model refers to a configuration in which required trading partner data is stored in one database. A distributed data architecture model refers to a configuration in which required trading partner data is stored across multiple databases. And a semi-distributed data architecture model refers to a configuration in which required trading partner data is stored in a few select databases. FDA recognizes that the development of the enhanced system across the supply chain will be complex, but views the elements described here as important parts of a robust system structure. Although each trading partner should have its own individual validated systems and processes for managing its product and data, FDA recommends that the enhanced system enable the interoperable integration of such individual systems, again, to allow appropriate access, efficient information, and data security. Okay. So based on stakeholder feedback about current industry practices and preferences, FDA supports a distributed or semi-distributed data architecture model because either model can allow each trading partner to maintain control over its own data. In addition, trading partners can use the model which best facilitates promptly providing federal and state officials upon their request with complete product tracing data as required under the DSCSA. So FDA recommends the enhanced system use appropriate data security standards, security protocols, and security applications to protect data, trading partners' individual systems, and the enhanced system itself from falsification, malicious attacks, and breaches. Trading partners should ensure data security by adopting standards and/or protocols developed by a widely recognized international standards development organization. Trading partners should use individual systems and procedures that protect confidential commercial information and trade secrets. FDA expects trading partners to ensure that they will maintain the confidentiality of product tracing information through usual business practices. FDA will treat any information provided to the agency like other information submitted to us by industry or stakeholders, including complying with the requirements under the Freedom of Information Act and regulations prohibiting public disclosure of confidential commercial information and trade secrets. The enhanced system should permit only an authorized trading partner to request relevant data related to a product that the authorized trading partner sold or purchased. In addition, the system should enable trading partners to share relevant data in a secure manner upon request by an authorized trading partner, FDA, or other appropriate federal or state official in the event of a recall for the purpose of investigating a suspect or illegitimate product. The DSCSA requires that trading partners provide applicable transaction information, including that which facilitates the gathering of transaction information going back to the manufacturer and a transaction statement for the product upon such request. Okay, that was a lot of information. Next slide, please. Okay, for the next few slides, I will be focusing on enhanced product tracing, starting with the exchange of TI and TS statements. So Section 582 G1A of the FDA Act requires the TI and TS to be exchanged in a secure, interoperable electronic manner. We have already reviewed that the TI and TS are set and defined by the law. We just discussed system structure, which includes possible data architectures such as semi-distributed, semi-centralized data architecture models, and how this model could provide the balance between trading partner control of their own data while enabling responding to information requests, for example, from FDA, as required by DSCSA. But product tracing requirements change in November 2023, and we refer to that as enhanced product tracing. The exchange of product tracing information that is currently required with each transaction of product includes the TI, TH, and TS. Because the requirements to provide and receive the TH are no longer in effect on November 27, 2023, the product tracing post-November 2023 involves providing just TI and TS with each transaction. And if you want, you can refer to the sunset provision for TH in Section 582K of the FDA Act. The requirement to promptly facilitate the gathering of information necessary to produce the TI for each transaction going back to manufacturer does kick in. And it sounds very similar to TH in that, again, it's supposed to, again, promote that information going back to the manufacturer. And that begins in November 2023. Another enhanced drug distribution security provision under Section 582 G1B, which states that the TI must include the data elements of the product identifier at the package level for each package included in the transaction, meaning serialized information. So as the NDC serial number, lot number, and expiration date are the data elements of the product identifier, what changes in November 2023 is that the TI becomes, again, as I said, serialized. You can also think of it as serialized TI for shorthand. On the left side of the slide, I think we're going to, let me see. I think we have to go, yep, okay, great. So on the left side of this slide, we show what is defined to be part of the TI based on the statutory definition 581.26 of the FDA Act. And this is what is currently exchanged as part of product tracing information. Since NDC and lot number are already included in the current TI data set, starting in late 2023, enhanced product tracing will need to include the additional data elements, the serial number and expiration date. And we hope that trading partners will use steps and technical functions to accommodate the inclusion of NDC and serial number, along with lot number and expiration date. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. In the last couple of slides, we discussed one aspect of the what, meaning what information is exchanged as part of a transaction and enhanced product tracing starting in November 2023. Additional changes include how the data or information about the product is provided, captured, and maintained. Reconciliation means checking that the product tracing information received in an electronic format accurately reflects the actual packages of product. I won't read this in detail, but in summary, reconciliation of the data along with the physical product should be done whether you are the selling trading partner or the purchasing trading partner. And this slide depicts how this could be done through reading or scanning of the product identifier as you fulfill an order, or if you are a selling trading partner, or scanning of the barcode upon receipt of the product, if you're the purchasing trading partner. Next slide, please. We want to spend a little time talking about handling aggregation errors and other discrepancies that may be seen in the product tracing information. So we expect the product tracing information to be true, accurate, and complete. But we do recognize there may be situations where there is a clerical error or discrepancy in the product tracing information that may not be indicative of a suspect product. If a trading partner purchases product and there is a potential clerical error or other type of discrepancy in the product tracing information it received, the trading partner should resolve the error or discrepancy. We recommend immediately contacting the trading partner that provided the product tracing information to resolve the issue. The products involved should not be sold to the next trading partner until the error or discrepancy has been resolved. If the error or discrepancy cannot be resolved and the product is determined to be a suspect or illegitimate product, then the trading partners must follow steps for verification of product, including, if applicable, quarantine and investigation. Next slide, please. Okay. So we've touched on this a little bit in previous slide, but let's now talk about what a trading partner is required to gather, or when a trading partner is required to gather relevant product tracing information in response to a request. These requirements are in section 582 G1D and E of the FD&C Act. Beginning in November 2023, in the event of a recall or for the purpose of investigating a suspect product or illegitimate product, trading partners are required to have systems and processes necessary to promptly respond with the TI and TS for a product, and they're also required to promptly facilitate the gathering of information necessary to produce the TI for each transaction going back to the manufacturer as applicable upon request by FDA or another appropriate federal or state official. As you can see on the slide, the statutory provisions are pretty dense. So realize that in certain situations, a trading partner can also make a request for certain product tracing information from another trading partner. FDA thinks that the broader enhanced system will enable appropriate requesters to receive product tracing information from any trading partners involved in transactions related to a specific product when requesting the information as part of an investigation or for a recall. So let's talk through some scenarios. If FDA is investigating illegitimate product as a requester, FDA would send a request for relevant product tracing information, the TI and TS, to a trading partner, and that trading partner should respond and provide the relevant TI and TS to FDA. If FDA sends requests to multiple trading partners for TI and TS relevant to a particular product, the trading partner should respond and provide the relevant TI and TS to FDA. Similarly, an authorized trading partner may make a similar request for facilitating the gathering of information if it is investigating suspect product and may request relevant TI information or TI as applicable. So in either scenario, the gathering of such information essentially builds what we think of as the TH. Next slide, please. Beginning November 27, 2023, trading partners must exchange product tracing information electronically. Enhanced verification includes incorporation and use of the product identifier, specifically verifying the product at the package level, including the NDC and serial number. The law references the standardized numerical identifier. So while the verification requirements that began in 2015 that I spoke about earlier remain in effect, phased in verification requirements related to the product identifier also went into effect in 2018 for manufacturers and repackagers, 2019 for wholesale distributors, and 2020 for dispensers. Remember that when the enhanced drug distribution security requirements go into effect in 2023, product identifiers are not only on the product packages in homogeneous cases, but should be part of the electronic product tracing information. For verification of distributed product, Section 582 G1C of the FD&C Act requires systems and processes for verification of product at the package level. Upon receiving a request to verify a product, trading partners should use processes that automate verification of the product down to the package level, including instances involving aggregated data, how the request is made. This could be done in various ways. Our slide shows one way of reading the 2D data matrix barcode to initiate the request. And 3, how the response to the request is managed and communicated back to the requester. This also may be done in different ways, but the trading partner's individual system should enable quick verification of suspect and illegitimate product, including the direct response to the requester. The request for verification of product may come from FDA or another trading partner, and the request and response should be in an electronic, interoperable, and standardized manner. Next slide, please. So I just spoke in more general terms about enhanced verification for distributed product, but now to focus on verification of saleable return product. To support enhanced verification, in 2023, a trading partner must have systems and processes in place to associate saleable return product with the applicable appropriate TI and TS as required by the FD&C Act. This capability will help enable a trading partner to accept saleable returns that are appropriate for sale and distribution in the pharmaceutical distribution supply chain. Trading partners should develop and use processes to automate verification of the associated electronic data in the TI and TS with the returned product. In addition, the product identifier should be verified as described in the previous slide. This verification would provide a confirmatory step before further distribution of the product. If aggregated data is involved, trading partners should incorporate steps as needed to maintain the ability to associate the TI and TS with saleable return product. In the enhanced system, trading partners' individual systems and processes may be similar for general verification of distributed product and verification of saleable returns. FDA anticipates that some trading partners may use the same systems and processes for both requirements. Next slide, please. With that, I'll close out the overview. I went through a lot of information, but hopefully at a minimum, I conveyed the high-level DSCSA goals you see here for future implementation efforts. At the end of the meeting today, we will provide links to FDA, DSCSA guidances, and other resources, which we encourage you to review. I'm now going to turn it back over to Dan.
Great, thank you, Abba. All right, we're going to keep moving and go right into the stakeholder presentations. And the first one is from Mark Hendrickson with PDSA. That's the Pharmaceutical Distribution Security Alliance. Thanks for participating, Mark. It's all yours. Oh, I'm sorry, Mark. Hold on one sec. I got to read this slide. We just wanted to remind everyone that the following presentations, the findings, conclusions, and recommendations in these presentations are that of the authors and don't represent FDA's position on any compliance requirement or endorsement of any particular technology or approach. Reference herein to any specific commercial products, process, or service by trade name, trademark, manufacturer, or otherwise does not constitute or imply an endorsement, recommendation, or favoring by the FDA. The views and opinions of the authors of these presentations, our speakers, should not be misconstrued as advertising products nor for endorsement purposes. I should have been a lawyer. Great. Thanks, everyone. With that, we'll turn it over to Mark Hendrickson with PDSA.
Great, thank you. Good morning. If you could go to my first slide, please. Next slide. My name is Mark Hendrickson from Levitt Partners. We are an advisor to PDSA, the Pharmaceutical Distribution Security Alliance, a multi-stakeholder coalition established in 2011 with membership that spans the entire spectrum of the U.S. pharmaceutical distribution system, as shown here on this slide, including manufacturers, repackagers, wholesale distributors, third-party logistics providers, and pharmacies. More than 25 companies are formal members of PDSA, while many other external stakeholders provide additional policy and technical support through trade associations. Our primary goal is ensuring patients have uninterrupted access to safe, authentic, FDA-approved medicine. Next slide, please. We appreciate the agency hosting a public meeting on this important topic and are grateful to have the opportunity to provide the PDSA perspective. Several individual PDSA members will also provide additional comments throughout the meeting and will elaborate on their individual organization's experiences. But we would like to highlight several critical and collective themes as PDSA. PDSA members and industry as a whole have been building the foundations and building blocks on top of those foundations for years. The legislation was created in a manner to encourage sectors to build off of the work done before them and collaborate together. To that end, the systems and processes being implemented for serialization and data exchange are the foundation for the enhanced 2023 systems and processes. PDSA members and others in the industry are well underway with the development, implementation, and deployment of those systems and processes that are foundational to the 2023 interoperability sought in the law. Over the years, industry has emphasized those solutions implemented to meet the early stage requirements to DSCSA should not be throwaway solutions. To that end, the systems and processes being implemented for serialization and data exchange create that foundation. One example of this is trading partner relationships developed through the ASN implementation process being built to implement peer-to-peer EPCIS-based serialized data exchange. Industry is not moving away from that and will use that as a model toward a centralized solution in the future. Second, PDSA is firmly of the view that the enhanced system for 2023 should not be viewed as a single system, technology, or asset. Rather, it is a network of independent but interoperable training partner systems and processes. In some ways, this is similar to the way in which the internet is a system, where data can be requested, sent, and received between interoperable yet independent systems. However, that's where the similarities end. DSCSA systems are unlike that internet system because data within these systems cannot be searched or accessed independent of the trading partner. Within the network of interoperable systems and processes, each company is responsible for its own systems and processes, including the compliance related to those systems and processes. All companies need to take that responsibility for their own implementation and compliance to enable the network to achieve its goals. Third, access to DSCSA data should not be viewed as direct access or data or trading partner access. Access in this case it should be interoperable and leverage a common protocol, allowing systems to interact, but having a trading partner as a gatekeeper to review and assess each response. Some companies may choose to leverage humans in this process, while others may leverage electronic systems, including through service providers. But each company should be in a position to define its gatekeeping processes and systems with these guardrails in mind. Finally, we recognize the agency has an important statutory role in identifying standards to support interoperability. However, it's also important to recognize that implementation to date has been entirely based on GS1 standards. Given the amount of design and implementation already underway, it is essential that the agency recognize existing high-level technical standards and not seek to introduce new standards at this late stage of implementation. Specifically, we ask that the agency recognize the GS1 suite of standards, including the GS1 EPCIS standards for data exchange, the GS1 standard and general specs for encoding, the lightweight messaging standard for verification, and related GS1 USA implementation guidelines. Introduction of new technical standards at this stage would severely impede the ability for industry to implement 2023 requirements. To the extent the agency desires to address methods broader than technical standards, we encourage the agency to simply finalize draft guidance for DSCSA standards for the interoperable exchange of information for tracing of certain human, finished, and prescription drugs. While early agency guidance can help us guide and support implementation, agency guidance this late in the process could be detrimental to industry efforts if it is not consistent to the implementation already underway. In closing, although it is important the agency guidance be carefully and properly tailored at this stage of the implementation, PDSA does believe the agency has an important role to help ensure the entire industry progresses toward 2023. We look forward to continued collaboration with the agency and the opportunity to support you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Great, thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. And I was just going to remind speakers to keep it at 10 minutes, and Mark was more than generous and only took up about half that. So just that reminder for future speakers, we have no more than 10 minutes for each speaker. All right, let's keep moving and turn it over to Eric Marshall with PDG. That's the Pharmaceutical Distribution, Partnership for DSCSA Governance. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I will keep my comments brief, but my name is Eric Marshall. I'm the Executive Director of the Partnership for DSCSA Governance, or PDG, and I want to thank the agency for the opportunity to provide these comments here today. Next slide, please. Over the course of several years of DSCSA implementation, stakeholders across the supply chain recognized the need for and called for the formation of an industry governance body to provide a formalized process through which trading partners and other stakeholders could identify and resolve critical cross-sector issues to support DSCSA interoperability. In response to that call, PDG was formed in late 2019. Today, PDG has more than 70 members representing large, medium, and small companies from every sector of the supply chain, including 6 trade association members representing manufacturers, wholesalers, 3PLs, and dispensers. PDG members are actively engaged in 4 work groups, collaborating to solve difficult issues related to serialized TI exchange, verification, tracing, and ATP credentialing. In 2020, PDG formalized its public-private partnership with the FDA. Through this partnership, FDA participates on the PDG Interoperability Committee, which fosters critical discussions about technical challenges or operational issues faced by trading partners and other stakeholders. We want to thank the agency for their willingness to engage through that channel. Next slide, please. PDG's charge is to create a shared vision for interoperability in 2023 and to advance that vision. Earlier this year, PDG published the first chapter of its foundational blueprint, which is publicly available on our website. This first chapter defines PDG business requirements and compliance requirements across many of the same subject matter areas as the FDA's recent guidance. The blueprint defines PDG's requirements related to system access and confidentiality of TI data through the tracing process, expectations for the reconciliation of TI and physical product, and baseline requirements for tracing and verification, including the role of serial number status changes. In the coming months, PDG will be publishing additional chapters of the blueprint to further define the functional design and conformance criteria for TI exchange, verification, tracing, and credentialing. To this end, I do want to emphasize that PDG does not seek to duplicate the good work done by myriad other stakeholder groups in this space. And wherever possible, we'll be doing this by referencing and synthesizing the existing work from other groups into a cohesive, overarching vision for interoperability. We encourage the agency and all stakeholders to review the current and future chapters of the blueprint carefully to understand our vision for interoperability. And we ask the agency to recognize the existing work of industry documented through the blueprint as it revises its EDDS guidance and contemplates future guidance. Thank you again for this opportunity. I'd welcome any questions that you may have that I can answer. Otherwise, we'll move on from there.
Great, thank you, Eric. We'll actually do questions for all the speakers in the session at the end, after the last speaker in the session, which I believe is Dave Mason with Novartis. But next, We've got Ryan Cott with PhRMA. Ryan, if you're ready, it's all yours.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. I'm Ryan Cott, Assistant General Counsel at the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America, or PhRMA. PhRMA is a trade association that represents America's leading innovative biopharmaceutical research companies, which are devoted to discovering and developing medicines that enable patients to live longer, healthier, and more productive lives. We appreciate FDA's efforts to date to implement the DSCSA, including through public workshops, meetings, and guidance. PhRMA members appreciate the importance of ensuring the security of the pharmaceutical supply chain to help safeguard patients from illegitimate product. To that end, PhRMA members have invested significant resources towards supply chain security in alignment with the requirements in the DSCSA, including investments in preparation for the enhanced requirements effective November 2023. PhRMA members and other supply chain partners are working diligently to conduct pilots and develop processes and systems to help ensure supply chain security. That being said, we strongly encourage FDA and all stakeholders present today to educate and inform their colleagues and constituencies of upcoming DSCSA timelines and ongoing engagement within the industry to help ensure as smooth a possible initiation of the interoperable system in 2023. My comments today will focus primarily on enhanced drug distribution security and the gathering of relevant product tracing information. First, as others have already articulated today, the enhanced system will consist of many individual systems that, taken together, will be interoperable. It is important to emphasize that the current industry approach to establishing the interoperable system is a semi-distributed network model. It will be critical to understand FDA's thinking on how the agency intends to connect any of their systems to this distributed network model. Second, we strongly encourage FDA to expeditiously issue guidance on data standards for interoperable data exchange. FDA should take ongoing industry stakeholders' discussions and developments into consideration when developing its guidance. We encourage the agency to provide its current thinking on standards relating to enhanced verification, product tracing, alerts and notification, and authorization and credentialing. Third, and relatedly, we strongly encourage FDA to clarify its recommendations on how the agency and other appropriate federal and state officials may access the enhanced system. It is critical that the system, intended to secure the supply chain, prevents access by unauthorized participants. We recognize ongoing work in various fora on credentialing and strongly recommend that FDA, federal, and state officials align with current and planned practices to avoid creation of a separate credentialing process. Ensuring alignment would further the goals of interoperability. Fourth, FDA should confirm that trading partners share all transaction information relevant to the direct trading partner in response to requests from authorized trading partners as part of the enhanced system. Excluding certain critical information and responses from authorized trading partners, including the identity of the trading partners in a transaction, would also be contrary to the intent of the DSCSA. From a public health perspective, sharing all elements of the transaction information would best enable a prompt response and investigation of suspect illegitimate products in the supply chain. Fifth, we recommend FDA revise the recent draft guidance to recognize that 3 business days to solve clerical errors may not be feasible in all circumstances. While trading partners will of course be incentivized to resolve clerical errors as soon as possible, it may not always be feasible to resolve errors in 3 business days, particularly for situations involving aggregation errors where product identifiers inside a case are incorrect. Accordingly, we recommend that FDA revise the final guidance to remove the recommendation for a 3-day timeline to resolve critical errors, and instead recommend that trading partners work to resolve these errors as expeditiously as possible. Sixth, as FDA continues its policy development and implementation of the DSCSA, we encourage FDA to provide its insights on considerations trading partners should take into account when determining whether to distribute product before complete resolution of any clerical error, recognizing the balance of patient safety and access considerations implicated in these circumstances. Seventh, FDA should confirm that a single trading partner does not need to coordinate with other trading partners to facilitate the gathering of downstream transaction information when responding to a tracing request under the enhanced system. The single trading partner's response will facilitate FDA gathering all the transaction information most efficiently, as trading partners may not know and/or may not have relationships with indirect trading partners later down the chain. Eighth, we encourage FDA to provide its thinking on how it views the interoperable system into fitting into current FDA requirements and industry practices with respect to recalls. Pharma recognizes the potential benefit of leveraging the interoperable system in recall practices and believes the public health would benefit by understanding FDA's expectations in this regard. Finally, patients and industry would benefit from clarity on what should happen with products in the supply chain on November 27, 2023 that may not have TI at the serial level. Advanced confirmation of FDA's thinking on the status of these products would help to avoid supply chain disruptions. Pharma appreciates FDA's efforts in implementing the DSCSA and the Enhanced Systems Draft Guidance. The U.S. pharmaceutical supply chain will be made stronger through the efforts and collaboration of trading partners in the FDA. Pharma members and other stakeholders are working diligently towards compliance with the enhanced requirements of the DSCSA, and we encourage FDA to expeditiously finalize the Enhanced System Guidance with modifications as noted to provide more certainty to industry as DSCSA implementation efforts continue apace. Again, thank you for the opportunity to comment today.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it. Next speaker we have is Dave Mason with Novartis. Dave, it's all yours.
Thank you. I'm Dave Mason of Novartis. I'm the supply chain compliance and serialization lead. Next slide, please. Can you hear me? Okay, thanks. What I want to talk about is many manufacturers and distributors and some of the retail dispensers back in 2015, after lot level traceability, got together and started a blueprint on the model that was going to be built for 2023. And since 2016, we have been implementing that model. And that model is a distributed model, which you've heard from many of the speakers. What's that mean? It is separate systems that are within the four walls of each partner, and it's on different networks via the internet, using IT security networks to make a secure direct connection between each. There's also different types of exchange, which we're following on the 2014 guidance. That data exchange is email, portal, or AS2 connection, or using a service provider. How are we building interoperability? We're building interoperability using USGS1 healthcare standards. This is important that the FDA either recognize or support GS1 standards, because this is where the major work in the industry is being done. This is the key to interoperability. And I highly recommend that the FDA reach out to GS1 and have a presentation, because their work is important. Why is their work important? EPCS message. We're using this in all system standards. Also, we are using GLNs. We also have done a lot of work on every business process, and based off that business process, have made guidances and standards towards those processes. So GS1 is very important to us. The other things are we also are recommending that you finalize the 2014 guidance. I know this has been asked for by before, but it is very important towards our distributed model and moving towards 2023. My concern is, looking at the presentation earlier, that we keep looking at some kind of hub or other methods. If there's any deviation from what we're building now, there will be a risk to meeting the congressional compliance dates in 2023. So the other issues are BRS. We have been building BRS. That is a model that uses a router service. We have built this, we're testing this, we're finding issues. And when we find issues like we can't identify authorized trading partner, then our service providers are bringing up different methods called credentialing. I know there's a lot of this talk about credentialing. A year ago, there wasn't even a discussion in industry, but basically what credentialing is using is basically a three-set effort. There's a technical part to it, and there's a compliance part to it. The compliance part is, I am Novartis, and I show credential proof through a trusted network to show that I am an authorized trading partner. Then I have additional credentials that are trusted, that show I am who I say I am. And that's important because in a PKI, which is a two-method authentication, that two-method authentication is known within my four walls. Outside my four walls, that is not known. And that's why it's important to kind of do those 3 steps. I also encourage the FDA to look at other pilots that are going on, enhanced recalls and tracing systems. One of my concerns is in the distributed system, we are exchanging data, but in the enhanced guidance, it talks about communication of recalls, tracing, 3911s. That has to go through a separate system. It can't go in the system we're building to exchange data. And there are people outside in many of these pilots and work groups that are working on this. But one common theme with all these work groups, we always go back to GS1 to get the interoperability guidelines into the standards. So I highly recommend that the FDA reach out past and reach out to these networks and really dig into what they're doing. Okay. The other thing, most manufacturers and wholesalers have built their systems, and we are getting emails and letters saying we need to start exchanging data a year prior to the compliance date. Why is that? This allows 1 year of hypercare. You know, hypercare is basically looking at gaps and issues and everything and correcting them and transitioning from serialized product to aggregated product. So my message is, if you're going to send out guidance that's different than what we're doing, then it jeopardizes the 2023 requirements. So the next thing that is really important, we keep focusing on the architecture. One of the big issues I'm seeing, and this is most people are seeing, is about data. Partners are managing data inconsistently. Inconsistent management of data will not allow interoperability, will not allow effective tracing, will not allow effective recalls. We have to have some kind of guidance, in my recommendation, a Q&A type guidance that talks from the FDA's perspective, what you expect, how you expect partners to manage data. And basically giving real life situations and saying this is how we do it. And why I'm saying that is, most other countries have requirements. When should I decommission data? How should I take serial numbers that are stolen and identify them as stolen or lost or things like that? You're looking for some kind of detection system. If you have, the system right now is not built to be a detection system. It is basically built to exchange data. People work hard in looking at the data and maybe they find some issue. We're not exchanging the serial number status, or a lot of partners are not even doing statuses of serial numbers. So this jeopardizes, I think, some of the visions of the FDA. Can you give me the next slide, please? Thanks. So what I wanted to show is, this is a simple version of the architecture we're building. It's very simple, not in detail, but basically this is what the distributed model looks like. Next slide, please. I actually stole this from way back in the California days of when they were doing this. Why I wanted to show this is, you saw the simplified model in the last slide. Well, I'm the manufacturer and I sell to a wholesaler. This is what the actual supply chain looks like. So imagine this distributed system with all these moves in a network with direct connections that are secure where you can't penetrate into the system. This is very complicated, okay? So that's why the system we are building really can't do a overall communication, or you can't really do a trace. You need to go and have a request for tracing. So I just wanted to bring this slide up because this is really what the supply chain looks like. And next slide, please. This is just showing kind of how we're doing the credentialing. And why I wanted to talk about that is, we have audited partners to make sure they're trustworthy and the credentials they get are trustworthy. I know there's talk about accreditation and governance and things like that, but it's still up to the partners basically from FDA compliance rules to make sure that whoever we're using is working within a compliance method. And we have done that, and many of our manufacturing partners have done this. We assure that the credentials we're getting are trustworthy. So we can identify the person as a ATP. And then my next slide, please. And this is just something I wanted to show. These are things going on beyond your partnership and beyond. This is a down in the dispenser area with a community and hospital dispensers. We're working on systems, and we're working with them. Even though we're using GS1, they keep saying, well, we can't use EPCS. Well, we're building portals to give them PDFs and flat files and able to communicate. My concern is down in the dispenser community, and this is a recommendation, is that the FDA should really have a dispenser workshop and really provide clear expectations, what you expect from a dispenser. And in that workshop, also, we can discuss with the dispensers what's being built. Because what I'm finding out in the dispenser community, there's a lot of confusion. I want to thank the FDA for their time and their cooperation and their also guidance. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Dave. All right, we're now going to move on to our first panel Q&A session. And let me first, because I neglected to do it earlier, you might have briefly seen the slide. I believe it was number 34 for our AV guys. If you go back to slide number 34, I just want to introduce the panel of FDA participants, starting with Abakundi, who you heard from before, and Connie Jung, both in CDER's Office of Compliance and ODSER. And then we also have Sridhar Mantha, who is Director of CDER's Office of Business Informatics in our Office of Strategic Programs. And then in addition, we have Caitlin Minio and Michael Bernstein, both in our Office of Regulatory Policy in CDER, as well as Anita Richardson. She is the Associate Director of Policy in CBER, that's our Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research, and she's in the Office of Compliance and Biologics Quality. And then lastly, we have Christine Hunt and Dinesh Kumar, both regulatory counsels in our Office of the Chief Counsel, OCC. So with that, I'll open it up if there are any questions from our panel for our first group of speakers. And please identify who you want the question to go to, and also if you could also introduce yourself before asking the question, that'd be great. Thank you.
Hi, can we ask Dave, can you unraise your hand, please? And that way we can activate video on our side. Thank you. For the FDA panelists, on behalf of the FDA panelists, hello to everybody. Thank you for the first session of speakers. If you have a question, please turn on your camera. This is to the FDA panel. Please turn on your camera and identify yourself, and you can ask the question. I will look to my colleagues first to see if there's any questions. Please unmute your mic.
Hi, this is Christine Hunt from the Office of the Chief Counsel. Thanks again to all the speakers. I can't turn on my video at the moment, but I do have a question, which is for Dave. You said you said that the partners are managing data inconsistently, and that leads to issues. Could you share what types of issues you're talking about on the ground, or sort of share a little bit more in concrete terms what that means for you?
Yeah, so it's very easy. So how we follow the data integrity guidance, because this is CGMP data. And I've talked to other manufacturer partners. So if we have a stolen or lost product, or a product that is stolen, we identify it. So if it comes back to us through our reverse logistics, we can identify it. Also, if product is sampled or rejected, we decommission it. And this is done in most of the other regions of the world that do serialization. And what we see is that a lot of partners want to just give us a data, and basically if they have rejects, or if they have samples, they don't decommission it. I just get a bowl of data, basically what I'm saying, and you really can't do tracing, or you really can't do what you need to do if your data is not accurate and true. And I think this is in the enhanced guidance, because accurate and true is another part of what data integrity it says. And a lot of people are not understanding that this is CPNG data, and that data integrity rules do comply. And I think there was a great Q&A in December of 2018, I believe, but it didn't involve serialization. It talked about lab equipment and that type of CGMP data. It would be great to expand that guidance to include what FDA's expectations are on how to manage data. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Dave. Yes. And if other panelists have thoughts on that point, please feel free to add in.
Thanks, Christina. This is Connie from Peter's Office of Compliance. I will add a little bit to that question, and it's to Dave, but also some of the other speakers in this panel, particularly maybe from as a manufacturer perspective. Several of you mentioned or referred to status of the serial numbers, and we have heard in different venues, whether it's through comments or public meetings, that that is not, there's a challenge because that is not specifically outlined in the statute, but we do continue to hear that the status of the serial number is important. So how can FDA and also the supply chain sort of balance or figure out how to balance the need for understanding the status of the serial numbers? And we often hear folks are concerned about trying to implement certain things that are not mandated specifically by the statute. And that I'll if it could be any of the three speakers, please.
Yeah, I'll just have a quick comment. If you look at other areas like EU, China, Russia, even Brazil, they have in their statutes about serial number management because they understand the importance of it. And I think even though it's not in the statute of DSCSA, I think other statutes of FDA come into effect here, especially since it's a CGPN data and it's so important to patient safety. So I think that's why I continually ask for the expansion of the DI and include the serialization type data.
And Connie, it's Eric. I'll just say, from a PDG perspective, how we approach this challenge and divided it, that may be useful. And I think, Dave, this is consistent with your comments as well. As we had this conversation in our forum and talked through it, we distinguished kind of capturing and exchanging among trading partner of serial number statuses back and forth versus when you have that status, how do you manage and use it? And I think what you're referring to, and I think we've heard consistently kind of through our conversations as well, is that idea that serial number statuses would be conveyed and communicated back and forth all over the place between trading partners is a really big lift, not something that's specifically called out in the statute, and raises a lot of complications and challenges. However, there are organizations that do have some of that information. And I think more to Dave's point there, when you do have those data available to you, how do you manage and use those in the process? And so that may just be one distinction for the agency to think about, is that distinguishing kind of the exchanging and sharing them all over the supply chain as they happen versus how do you manage and use them when you do happen to have them, even if you aren't able to kind of share and exchange them, you know, kind of all over the supply chain, to speak a little colloquially.
Eric, I would agree with that. I'm talking more within your four walls, right? You should be
Yep.
managing your data within your four walls. So I do agree with that. It would be complicated if we had to do that because a distributed system would make it very complicated. Okay, these other countries I talked about have centralized databases. So I agree with that assessment.
Yep, and Dave, that's a good way of saying my kind of that second bucket I was talking about in your four walls is a great way of kind of capturing that second bucket. Yep.
Thank you. Did any of the other speakers want to comment to that? If not, we can go to the next question. All right. Did anybody of the FDA panel, is there an additional question? We have a few more minutes during the session.
This is Christine. I will double dip and ask another one.
Okay.
And this is about the product without product identifier. How are people, and with in 2023, you know, there will be a transition. So how are it, do folks on the panel have a vision for how to communicate about the product that will not have product identifier in 2023, or are there systems people are using now? Because we are in a mixed universe where some product has product identifier and other product does not.
Yeah, so I'll go because I'm in the weeds on this one. From a manufacturing standpoint, since 2018, we've been putting product identifiers unless the product has been exempt for that from the FDA. We basically seen our inventory has run out of product that's not serialized. What I see as more of a challenge is moving from a serialized world for people who didn't aggregate in 2018 to an aggregation world in 2023, right? So what I'm saying about that, if the product is only serialized, it makes it very difficult at the distribution center to build a serialization file that is required as T2 in 23. And that's why most manufacturers have either started exchanging data or will be exchanging data soon to run through that serialization inventory. So by 2023, we don't have a mix. So I don't see non-serialized product as an issue unless it's exempt. And what we would do is we would send a letter to our customer saying this has been exempt by the agency.
And Christine, can I just clarify whether you're referring to product that doesn't have a product identifier or TI data that doesn't have it at that product identifier level?
I was thinking of product without product identifier, but I'm interested in both.
Okay, that's helpful because David, I think you covered well kind of the product without identifier. I think as you heard, I don't want to speak for others, but I think as you heard from Ryan as well, there is a concern out there around serialized product, but where the TI data does not have the serialized information in it at the time. So the product is serialized, but the data exchange is not at a serial number level. And I know that's going to be an issue as well, just from a process perspective, because people have good and valuable processes in place to kind of ensure they have data inbound that matches their data outbound. And that's where that challenge comes in. So it may just be worth distinguishing and thinking about those two different issues: product without the serialized identifier, and then data that doesn't have the serialized information.
Yeah, so when it comes to data, there's been identified 42 exemptions that would make me managing from a downstream. And that's what we do know. we don't really know what we don't know because we haven't really done a lot of data exchange downstream. We learn a lot of this from exchanging data with CMOs, and also the limited wholesalers have started exchanging data with manufacturers. And again, this is where I think a data integrity guidance would come in, because it talks about, you really can't move product. This is what I say. We used to just sell product. We now sell product and data, right? If the data doesn't match the product, we can't move it forth. But I do agree with Ryan, 3 days, a lot of times, I can tell you right now from our experience, is not enough to do an investigation and find the error, especially if it's going to be an aggregation error, a concealed shortage, or an orphan. It almost will be impossible to figure out how that happened without an extensive investigation.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the comments related to standards and the additional recommendations for FDA to focus on in terms of guidances and additional guidance. Dan, I'll turn it back over to you. I think we will move to the break.
Yes, great. If no more questions, we'll take our break now. Let's do a 10-minute break. We're just a little behind schedule, not much. So let's come back. Let's just round it up for make it a little easier. So we'll come back at 10:50. And just a reminder, I just wanted to give one reminder for folks who wanted to sign up for the open comments session at the end. You can sign up by sending to the email box that we referenced, and we're trying to keep a deadline of 12:40 for sign up for the open comment session that is from 3 to 3:45. Thanks everyone. We'll be back at 10:50.